This is an MJA Inc. Investigations warning. This MJA podcast is rated E for explicit. Some details of a case and language used on this podcast might be upsetting to some of our listeners. Listeners' discretion is advised. And for those who are still with us, kick back and enjoy the show. Welcome to our MJA podcast, the series, Deep Into the Woods, Episode 18, Part 7, Missing Persons, Unsolved Crimes, and the Doe's. Missing Persons. The NCIC statistics for missing people number over 600,000 a year. There are many missing children and adults that are quickly found alive and well. However, tens of thousands of individuals remain missing. Unsolved crimes. In the United States, it has been reported that from 1980 to 2019, there are over 270,000 unsolved homicides. The Doe's. It has been reported that there are over 40,000 unidentified sets of remains in the United States. Good evening. My name is Mark, and I will be your host for tonight's show. Joining me later will be our co-host, Olivia. Olivia and I will profile missing person cases, unsolved homicides, John and Jane Doe's. We are coming to you from Morrisonville, New York. Missing persons. Welcome to New York. Case 1. On April 10th, 1969 is when 22-year-old David Michael Bacon, a white male, went missing and vanished without a trace from Waterford, New York. Case 2. On April 9th, 1995 is when 17-year-old Robin Frances Murphy, a white female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Carmel, New York. Welcome to California. Case 3. On January 12, 1987 is when 24-year-old David Robert Herschel, a white male, went missing and vanished without a trace from Sacramento, California. Case 4. It was on January 18, 1971 is when 19-year-old Christine Marie Easton, a white female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Hayward, California. Unsolved Homicides. Welcome to Washington. Case 5. On June 20th, 1999, at about 11:30 p.m. is when 31-year-old Cynthia Reardon, a white female, was last seen leaving the Hayloft Saloon located in Monroe, Washington. On February 2nd, 2000, the remains of 31-year-old Cynthia Reardon was discovered a few miles away from her home. Case 6. Welcome to Ohio. It was sometime on January 9th, 1998 is when 26-year-old Angela Marie Hall, a white female, disappeared without a trace from Lorain County, Ohio. It was on March 22nd, 2016 in Lorain County, Ohio is when the skeletal remains of a white female was discovered and identified in July of 2016 as Angela Marie Hall. The Doe'S. Welcome to Florida. Case 7. It was on June 8, 1982 is when John Doe, a white male, was discovered after an accidental fall at a construction site in Orlando, Florida. Case 8. It was on April 25, 1972 is when Jane Doe, a white female, was discovered murdered in Pinellas County, Florida. Welcome to Texas. Case 9. It was on August 9th, 1973 is when John Doe, a white or Hispanic male, was discovered murdered in Houston, Texas. Case 10. It was on December 10th, 1980 is when Jane Doe, a black female, was discovered murdered in Houston, Texas. Let's take a pause for the cause, and when we return, Olivia will be on the line, and we will profile missing persons, unsolved homicides, John and Jane Doe's. Be back in a moment.
Searching in the dark, trusting every clue I found, but the truth that is not told is every corner of these woods is hollow. I can't see in the dark.
Welcome to our MJ podcast, the series, Deep Into the Woods, Episode 18, Part 7, Missing Persons, Unsolved Crimes, and the Doe's. We have Olivia on the line. How are you doing tonight?
Doing good.
Are you ready to dig into these unsolved mysteries?
Yep.
Welcome to New York.
Yes.
The Doe Network has 140 males and 127 females listed as being missing from the state of New York. Case 1. Welcome to Waterford, New York. Missing male. It was on April 10, 1969 is when 22-year-old David Michael Bacon, a white male, went missing and vanished without a trace from Waterford, New York. It was around 11:30 p.m. on that date in the late evening that the 22-year-old Bacon was last seen as he left for his factory job working the midnight shift. On April 11, 1969, Bacon's car was found on Oil Mill Hill the morning after his disappearance. Bacon's paycheck was on the front seat. Police suspected the 22-year-old Bacon just left the area with no word to anyone. When Bacon didn't resurface after some time, the police became suspicious that foul play was involved. The case was reopened in 2008 when police received new information about the case. They reopened the investigation as a homicide. In January 2009, Nelson Costello was arrested and charged with second-degree murder in Bacon's death. The 22-year-old Bacon was murdered and had been the accumulation of a rivalry over a woman. At the time Bacon disappeared, Costello was a part-time constable in Waterford, New York, a position that existed before the town had a formal police department. Costello had help allegedly disposing of Bacon's body. That man will not face charges because the statute of limitations for those felonies of 5 years has ran out. There is no statute of limitations on murder. While police began a missing person investigation into the disappearance of the 22-year-old Bacon back in 1969, but any evidence related to the investigation at the time is now gone since the file has been purged from the police archives. In October 2009, a plea bargain was reached and Costello admitted to killing 22-year-old David Bacon in Waterford, New York. Bacon was shot to death at the Alcatraz Marina, which was located on Blight Lock Road in Waterford, New York. Then Costello transported the body to Virginia and claims he buried the body along the James River. As of today, the location of 22-year-old David Bacon is still unknown. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the New York State Police at 518-783-2211.
Case 2. Welcome to Carmel, New York. Missing female. It was on April 9th, 1995, when 17-year-old Robin Frances Murphy, a white female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Carmel, New York. The 17-year-old Murphy left her residence en route to a local restaurant to meet her boyfriend. Witnesses put Murphy on foot at ShopRite Plaza on Route 52. The 17-year-old Robin Frances Murphy never reached the restaurant. Murphy's vehicle was located near the Burger King restaurant in the mall's parking lot shortly afterward. Murphy's keys, wallet, and checkbook were discovered in a marshy area behind the shopping center several days later. November 15, 1997, police divers searched the pond off Nichols Road in Kent, New York. In 1999 and in 2002, police divers searched flooded Tilly Foster mine southeast of Carmel, New York. The searchers turned up nothing. Last person known to have seen 17-year-old Murphy alive is a convicted criminal by the name of Howard J. Gombert Jr. On two separate incidences. Howard Gombert Jr. had rape charges dismissed in Putnam County, New York for lack of evidence. Howard Gombert is currently serving 30 years in prison in Connecticut for sexual assault and other offenses. This Howard Gombert worked at laundry in the plaza where the 17-year-old Murphy was last seen. The suspect admitted seeing Murphy that night, but denied any role in her disappearance. When Howard Gombert was arrested 5 years later in the unrelated sexual assault case, the underwear belonging to Murphy was found in his suitcase. It's a classic sign of these types of suspects as they have to keep items from the victim so they can relive the crime. Howard Gombert has never been charged in relation to the Murphy case. Foul play is suspected in the disappearance of 17-year-old Robin Francis Murphy of Carmel, New York. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Carmel Town Police, Detective Sergeant Michael Nagel at 845-628-1300.
Welcome to California. The Doe Network has 703 males and 480 females listed as being missing from the state of California. Case 3. Welcome to Sacramento, California. Missing male. It was on January 12, 1987 is when 24-year-old David Robert Hercel, a white male, went missing and vanished without a trace from Sacramento, California. Robert Comer, a convicted murderer on death row in Arizona, has been the prime suspect in Hercel's disappearance for many years. Comer confessed to the 24-year-old Hercel's murder in 1999 while in prison. Comer claimed that he forced Hercel from his truck at gunpoint and placed Hercel in handcuffs. The suspect, Comer, stated that he tied Hercel's shoelaces together and forced him to walk away from him on a dirt road in Georgetown, California. The suspect said he killed the 24-year-old Hercel with a gunshot shortly after that. After Hercel's disappearance, the suspect, Robert Comer, was arrested by law enforcement in Arizona. The suspect, Comer, was driving Hercel's truck at the time of his arrest. Robert Comer was convicted of an Arizona murder and sentenced to death. In the 1980s, Robert Comer offered to divulge details regarding Hercel's case, but only to the victim's mother. Comer demanded that Hercel's mother donate $6,000 to his legal defense fund or supply him with various appliances. The victim's mother refused. 12 years after 24-year-old Hercel's murder, when the suspect Comer confessed, he drew a map of the location where he claimed to have disposed of Hercel's remains in 1987. Law enforcement located the area in question, but an extensive search in 2001 produced no clues as to Hercel's location. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the El Dorado County Sheriff's Department, Detective Kenneth Barber, at 530-621-6600.
Case 4. Welcome to Haywood, California. Missing female. On January 18, 1971, when 19-year-old Christine Marie Easton, a white female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Haywood, California. On that date in the evening hours, the 19-year-old Easton borrowed her former boyfriend's car, a 1969 Ford Maverick in Haywood, California. Easton planned to take a female friend shopping and told her ex-boyfriend that she would wash his vehicle before returning it to him later that night. The 19-year-old Easton purchased a pair of boots while shopping. Then Easton dropped the friend off at a friend's home before proceeding to Charlie's car wash in Haywood. The car wash was a self-service operation, and Easton always had a habit of cleaning the vehicle by hand. On January 19th, 1971, in the early morning hours, the car the 19-year-old Easton was driving was found abandoned at the car wash. The vehicle was locked, and it was obvious that Easton had completed washing the entire surface of the car before disappearing. Papers which were originally located inside the Maverick were found scattered on the pavement outside the driver's side door. But there was no sign of the 19-year-old Easton. Easton left all of her personal belongings at her home and had no travel plans. The 19-year-old Christine Marie Easton has never been seen or heard from again. Foul play is suspected in the disappearance of Christine Marie Easton from Hayward, California. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Hayward Police Department, Detective Jen Kell at 510-293-7000.
Let's take a pause for the cause, and when we return, Olivia and I will profile 2 unsolved homicides. Be back in a moment.
You are not real. The reality of an observable entity designated by the term everyday life stands a good chance of remaining hypothetical for many people. You are not real. Indeed, the most striking feature of the present group for research on everyday life is obviously not the fact that it has not yet discovered anything. You are not, but the fact that the very existence of everyday life has been disputed from its very inception. And increasingly so with each new session of this conference. You are not real. Most of the talks we have heard so far have been by people who are not at all convinced that everyday life exists. You are not real. Since they haven't encountered it anywhere. You are not real. A group for research on everyday life with this attitude is comparable in every way to an expedition in search of the Yeti. You are not real. You are not real, which might similarly come to the conclusion that its core was merely a popular hoax.
Welcome back to our MJA podcast, the series Deep Into the Woods, episode 18, part 7, Missing Persons, Unsolved Crimes, and the Doe's. Unsolved Crimes. Even though we might find this intriguing and exciting, unsolved mysteries are a nightmare for the loved ones left behind and the detectives dedicated to solving them. Sometimes it's new forensic evidence, and other times it's as simple as re-examining clues that leads to a cold case being solved. Welcome to the state of Washington. The Murder Accountability Project and Project Cold Case report that from 1980 to 2019, there are 2,937 unsolved homicides in the state of Washington. Case 5. Welcome to Monroe, Washington. Unsolved homicide. It was on June 20th, 1999, at about 11:30 p.m. is when 31-year-old Cynthia Reardon, a white female, was last seen leaving the Hayloft Saloon located in Monroe, Washington. The bar was located less than 1 mile from where 31-year-old Reardon lived. Some witnesses stated that she left with some men, and others said Reardon had left alone. Another fact to be known is that Reardon's vehicle wasn't running, and she either decided to walk home or catch a ride with someone else. The tavern was busy the night Reardon disappeared, and witnesses provided police with conflicting reports on when Reardon left. The 31-year-old Cynthia Reardon was a single mother who lived with her 8-year-old son and her fiancé. Reardon was working as a housekeeper at a motel. During the missing persons investigation, police pursued more than 160 leads. At that time, police said her fiancé was not a suspect in Reardon's disappearance. The victim's parents claimed to law enforcement, "We know our daughter, and we know she wouldn't leave her son like this." On February 2nd, 2000, in a marshy area by a dirt driveway, 31-year-old Cynthia Reardon's remains were found. The location was about 7 miles away from where Reardon was last seen alive. Law enforcement retrieved skeletal remains that they pulled out of the swamp. They used the woman's dental records to identify the skeletal remains as 31-year-old Cynthia Reardon from Monroe, Washington. They ruled Reardon's death a homicide. Investigators found evidence indicating that Reardon was murdered. Evidence also suggested the 31-year-old Reardon possibly was killed at a different location. Law enforcement is being tight-lipped and declined to be more specific about the evidence that was found. Scraps of clothing found near Reardon's body matched the description of Reardon's outfit the night she disappeared. In 2009, the Sheriff's Office released a photo of a sweater sleeve that was found near Reardon's remains that didn't belong to her. So far, no one has come forward with information about the sweater or Reardon's case. Investigators believe that if they could find who owned that type of sweater, it could lead to the killer. The Snohomish County Sheriff's Office Major Crimes Unit Cold Case Team states that it is an active cold case. There has not been any reports of DNA evidence for Cynthia's case. Cynthia Reardon was killed 2 months before she was to be married. The 31-year-old Reardon had already bought her wedding dress and never got to wear it down the aisle. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office at 425-388-3393.
Welcome to the state of Ohio. The Murder Accountability Project and Project Cold Case report that from 1980 to 2019, there are 10,659 unsolved homicides in the state of Ohio. Case 6, welcome to Lorain County, Ohio. Unsolved homicide. It was sometime on January 9, 1998, when 26-year-old Angela Marie Hall, a white female, disappeared without a trace from Lorain County, Ohio. On that day, Angela Marie Hall got into an unknown vehicle with unknown persons. The 26-year-old Hall was the mother of 4 children and was a former exotic dancer at Bugsy's Speakeasy in Elraya, Ohio. At the time of Hall's disappearance, Hall was a confidential police informant in a drug case. 26-year-old Hall, while working as a police informant, with cocaine to Michael and Patricia Boyd Bird 4 times from November 15, 1996 to March 7, 1997, according to court records. The Birds and the man who supplied them with the drugs were charged with threatening Hall. 26-year-old Hall had worked with Lorain County sheriffs to convict these 3 drug dealers. According to police records, the Birds passed a lie detector test in which they said they had paid Hall to leave the area. But they failed the test when they said they did not know Hall's whereabouts. Charges for the couple would to be reduced if they could help prosecutors locate Angela Hall. Just a side note, MJA got involved in the search for 26-year-old Hall on December 29, 2001. Starting in the spring of 2002, MJA conducted land and water searches for Angela Marie Hall, even close to the area where she was located. It was on March 22, 2016, in Huntington Township, Ohio, located in Lorain County, when the skeletal remains of a white female were discovered. Jane Doe, with the estimated age of 16 to 36 years old, was found in a farm field next to State Route 58. On that day, the remains were discovered by a landowner who was checking for damage from a wreck in the area a few days before. Jane Doe was found with several items of clothing and some jewelry. Initial anthropology analysis determined the samples to belong to a Caucasian female with a height and age range matching Hall's profile. In July 2016, through DNA samples provided by Hall's family, Jane Doe of Lorain County, Ohio, was identified as 26-year-old Angela Marie Hall. Due to extensive deterioration of the body, cause of death wasn't determined. Law enforcement assumes that Hall died in a violent way, and they assume that it's homicide. Some of Hall's family members said that it was unusual for Hall to disappear for long stretches of time, so the family waited a month before reporting him missing. Hall family kind of expected for the 26-year-old was not alive after all these years, for she would have never left her children. Law enforcement's investigation is ongoing, and when they catch the person who was involved, they hope to learn all the details as to what happened to Angela Marie Hull. Investigators believe somebody was involved that will have a lot of history with the case. Law enforcement have not yet identified a suspect, but we have been told that all the players involved are still alive as of 2023. This disappearance and murder of 26-year-old Hull is still unsolved and remains a mystery. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Lorraine County Sheriff's Office Detective Bureau at 440-329-3742.
Let's take a pause for the cause, and when we return, Olivia and I will profile John and Jane Doe cases. Be back in a moment.
I've been searching in the dark, trusting every clue I found, but the truth has not been told. 'Cause every corner of these woods is hollow. I can't see in the dark.
Welcome back to our MJ podcast, this series, Deep Into the Woods, episode 18, part 7, Missing Persons, Unsolved Crimes, and the Doe's. The Doe's. Welcome to the state of Florida. The Doe Network has 448 John Doe's and 111 Jane Doe's listed as being located in the state of Florida. Case 7. A welcome to Orlando, Florida. John Doe. It was on June 8, 1982 when John Doe, a white male, was discovered after an accidental fall at a construction site in Orlando, Florida. The John Doe had a recognizable face, being maybe 25 to 28 years old. The John Doe was located at the first floor of the building, which was under construction in Orlando, Florida. It is estimated that John Doe died on that date, being a victim of an accidental fall. In October 1981 and June 1982, the same John Doe was stopped by police. The John Doe identified himself as Adam Cadman. Cadman claims to be homeless. Cadman told police he recently moved to Orlando from Melbourne Beach, Florida. Even with a name, police said they could not identify the man using the information the victim had given them. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Orlando Police Department at 407-246-2470.
Case 8. Welcome to Pinellas County, Florida. Jane Doe. It was on April 25th, 1972, when Jane Doe, a white female, was discovered murdered in Pinellas County, Florida. On that date, the decomposing body of a white female, with the estimated age being 35 to 65 years old, was found. The estimated date of death was at least 1 week before being discovered. Jane Doe's cause of death was homicide. On that date, the woman's body was discovered on Bel Air Beach in Pinellas County. Jane Doe's head was not recovered. There were wires used to fasten lead weights to Jane Doe's body. Law enforcement tried to track the wires and weights used, but it led nowhere. 3 days before a body was seen floating half a mile south from where this Jane Doe's remains were discovered. but the other floating body was never recovered. In 2021, the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office sought the services of Parabon Nanolabs, a DNA technology company in Virginia that specializes in advanced DNA analysis services. One of the services used in this case was DNA phenotyping. Then, based on this type of DNA testing, you can get some type of appearance of what the victim or suspect may look like. Parabon Nanolabs genetic genealogy research indicated that Jane Doe, 1972, has Italian ancestry. Identified genetic descendants of Jane Doe, 1972, were all originally from New Jersey and New York. During this testing, they narrowed down that the victim could have had the first name of Rose or Julia, and there were several possible last names the victim could be. But so far, Jane Doe hasn't been identified. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office Detective Christopher Lyons at 727-582-6200.
Welcome to the state of Texas. The Doe Network has 278 John Does and 81 Jane Does listed as being located in the state of Texas. Case 9. Welcome to Houston, Texas. John Doe. It was on August 9, 1973 is when John Doe, a white or Hispanic male, was discovered murdered in Houston, Texas. On that date, John Doe's skeletal remains, with the estimated age of 15 to 20 years old, was found murdered. The estimated date of death could be 1 to 6 years before being discovered. On August 8, 1973, 16-year-old Elmer Wayne Henley told law enforcement he had shot and killed 33-year-old Dean Corll in Corll's Pasadena home. The 16-year-old Henley claimed this was after hours of drinking and glue sniffing. When police arrived at the scene, they found the body of 33-year-old Dean Corll. Corll assisted with running his family's candy company, which led to his nickname, the Candy Man. The 16-year-old Henley told investigators about luring teenage and young adult males to Corll's apartment. This is where Corll assaulted and killed them. The victims were all young males ranging from the age of 13 to 20 years old. The victims had either been abducted or lured to the location with the stance that they would get high. Then they were tortured and sexually assaulted before they were killed. Police estimated the killing spree spanned from 1970 to 1973. Henley was convicted in connection with 6 of the deaths and sentenced to concurrent 99-year prison terms. Henley led police to Corll's southwest Houston boat shed near Lake Sam Rayburn, where bodies were found buried in shallow graves. Just by looking at the photos, it's all hands on deck to recover the remains of the murder victims. Also, 18-year-old David Owen Brooks was involved. Brooks admitted he helped Henley lure victims for Corll. The 18-year-old Brooks received a 99-year sentence in one of the slayings. Brooks died in prison in 2020. This John Doe is the last unidentified victim recovered from the Houston boat shed. Several others killed by Corll and his followers went unidentified for years, with the last identification taking place in 2011. The bodies recovered were given the nickname the Lost Boys. John Doe's DNA was extracted and entered into the CODIS database in 2005, which has since yielded no matches. In 2018, it was publicly released that a tip was submitted, along with a photograph regarding the unidentified male possibly being Bobby French, a teenager who looks a lot like John Doe. In 2020, investigators selected this case for the genetic genealogy research with the DNA Doe Project, and then it has been turned over to an unspecified agency. On August 2023, Prince has yet to be excluded as a potential identifying, as investigators have had the difficulty locating surviving family members for DNA collection. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Harris County Institute of Forensic Sciences at 832-927-5000 or 832-927-5001 or 1-713-796-6858.
Case 10. Welcome to Houston, Texas. Jane Doe. It was on December 10th, 1980, when Jane Doe, a black female, was discovered murdered in Houston, Texas. The Jane Doe had a recognizable face, only dying hours before being discovered murdered. Jane Doe's estimated age is 16 to 40 years old. Lawyers working on an outdoor advertisement billboard found Jane Doe under a mattress lying on the ground. This location was under Interstate 45, located about 6 miles from downtown Houston alongside a railroad track. Jane Doe had been sexually active, but she was not raped. In 1984, females believed to be prostitutes or runaways were found strangled and dumped along I-45, some of them being victims of sexual assault. Out of the 4 victims of the so-called I-45 killer, only one has been identified. Between 1980 and early 1990, about 24 females were discovered along major roadways in the state of Texas, including the I-45 victims. Police are unsure whether they were all related or the work of multiple offenders. As of today, no suspects have been publicly named in these killings. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Harris County Institute of Forensic Sciences at 832-927-5000.
Okay, Olivia, is there anything you would like to add to any of these cases?
Just 3 of them. Robert Comer, wasn't he a serial killer?
Yeah. They found out, he ended up being a serial killer. Yeah.
I thought I heard of that name before. And also in Washington, I don't know if it was too early, but Israel Keys, he used to, I know he had a couple killings in Washington. Do you think he was involved, or was that before he started his...
Yeah, I think this was before his time. And the one in Texas about the boat shed, me and this Jewish kid from Illinois was hitchhiking back from California, and we actually stayed on that same beach when this was all going on. Wow. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah. Yeah, because after...
And this I-45 killer, again...
Yeah, the I-45 killer, that's another famous...
Isn't that the truck driver? The truck driver.
Well, they think it's a truck driver because of the location and it being on the corridor of I-45. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, I want to thank Olivia for being on the show tonight. A special thanks to our viewers and listeners for tuning in, for y'all have been so kind. I have a quote for you all. I'm the one that's got to die when it's time for me to die. So let me live my life the way I want to. Jimi Hendrix. Always remember, folks, that if you ever get bored with nothing to do, well, take a walk deep into the woods. You might be surprised at what you might find. That's the end of our MJ podcast, the series, Deep Into the Woods. This has been episode 18, part 7, Missing Persons, Unsolved Crimes, and the Doe's. We say to all of you, good night from Morrisonville, New York.
Why does it look like in heaven? Is it peaceful? Is it free like they say? Does the sun shine bright forever? Have your fears and your pain gone Here